Have you ever watched the movie Schrömgens Redemption? It's actually the highest ranked movie ever on IMDb. In its core, it's a prison movie. In one of the early scenes of the movie, you've seen the inmates lined up in a row. But when you get closer, you see what Roger Deakins is doing here. He's using the inmates' shadows to represent the prison bars in front of them. And at this point, you might get the clue that this movie is more about a psychological prison than an actual physical one. So how does this relate to my story? 20 years ago, this university was giving me many perspectives. But at the same time, it also contributed to create my psychological prison. A prison that was created 150 years ago and in the industrial age. And while the prison bars, the physical prison bars, are long gone, their shadows still dominated my idea of leadership for a very long time. Let me introduce you to Frederick Winslow Taylor. Taylor was born to a Quaker family in 1856. And he wanted to follow his father's footsteps to become a lawyer, but he lost his eyesight. And because he lost his eyesight, he decided to become an apprentice machinist at Midvale Steel. Because he was so intelligent and because he was so ambitious, he quickly rose through the ranks at Midvale Steel and became the chief of engineering. Surprisingly, he quickly made the observation that nobody around him was working as hard or as smart as he was working. He found even nicer words for it. He said, "Hardly a competent workman can be found who does not devote a considerable amount of time to studying just how slowly he can work and still convince his employer that he is going at a good pace." In its core, Taylor was convinced that workmen were having no self-interest in working properly. He wanted every worker to be be perfectly plugged like a well-oiled part in a perfectly running machine. He found even other words for it. He said, "Work consists mainly of simple and not particularly interesting tasks. The only way to get people to do them is to incentivize them properly and to monitor them carefully." You know, I would say Taylor was not wrong. He was just not longer right. Because in Taylor's times, 99 people were working in the production line, and one person was working in the administration, working creatively. Today, 99 people work creatively, and one person works in production line. Automation is killing all repetitive jobs. The only jobs that are left for us are creative jobs. And we have to do these creative jobs in ever-growing complexity. We have to do these jobs with the amount of information exponentially increasing and with the speed of change constantly accelerating. While in Taylor's times, companies were built like machines. Today, through ever-growing complexities, these machines are living and breathing beings. And complexity becomes stronger and stronger, more and more. A butterfly flapping its wings at one end creates a huge storm at the other side. Did we change? No, we keep our mantra. We keep our mantra. Incentivize properly, monitor carefully. That's the mantra. We lock people down. We lock people for 8 hours behind a computer, and we still pretend that productivity is a function of working hours. We should feel that Taylor is not right. But instead of questioning our major beliefs of fundamentals, we do the opposite. We lock people in smaller and smaller and smaller cages. And this imprisonment comes with a cost. they become demotivated and disengaged. And can we please once be truthful? How many of us are really interested to create real value for our organizations? And how many of us rather entertain themselves in a superficial career game? Who's winning that game? Whoever pretends the best. And who's losing? Our organizations and our purposes. This is what I call the productivity paradox. We chase productivity, and by that, we create disengagement. And through that disengagement, we lose even more productivity, and we have to start again. To break that vicious cycle, we need to understand we cannot make people productive. People have to want to be productive. I learned it the hard way. Doesn't look like it. Couple of dudes starting a company, building a multi-billion-dollar company. Great story. But from the inside, it was my personal quest. I wanted to build the perfect machine, and I had to realize it just doesn't exist. When I was beginning, it was all easy. I started together with Peter, basically coding every single line of code ourselves. Zero coordination effort, zero dependencies. That was pretty quick. Then we started to hire developers. Okay, I liked the help. But on the other side, basically nobody around me was working as hard or as smart as I wanted them to be. We hired even more developers. We lost control. We lost productivity. And in the feeling of losing control, we thought we have to nail down exactly what each person is doing and how long they are allowed to take for it. Amazing idea. Didn't work out at all. So what did we do next? We started to split up roles. Hire specialists. We thought if we hire a specialist, highly engaged specialist, then it will work out. It did not work out. With every single step that we did to create more productivity, we became, as an organization, we became slower and people disengaged and demotivated. In the other department, same story. In the beginning, we had quite motivated people, working hard and productively. Then complexity became higher and higher. We hired more people. We felt productivity goes down, and we thought it's a great idea that we find a better way to motivate people. So we sat together in the beginning of every year, putting together goals. And we thought that is a great idea, and we connect salaries to these goals. But at the end of the year, when we were starting to sum everything up, actually, this became quite a mess. On one, either goals were completely over or completely underachieved. If they were overachieved, of course, it was them shining. If they were underachieved, it was never their fault. At the end, those people were heavily favored in this process, whoever were able to putting themselves in the right light. And even worse, we trained our organization to hit superficial numbers and neglect the complexity of reality. I felt like a victim. Why is nobody getting what I want them to do? I feel trapped and helpless. Pushing away responsibility is what I call first-order error of entrepreneurs. Because I was not the victim. I had all the power. I was the managing director. There was nobody to blame. So what has gone wrong with my perfect machine? It's what I call the second-order error of entrepreneurs. I thought, probably I've just hired the wrong people. If I would only have hired A players, this would not have happened. It's our ego is tricking us. It's protecting itself. It's saying, okay, I get it, I'm responsible, but if I did a mistake, was probably a mistake long time ago, nothing to do with me. You know, I had to hire lots of A players to understand that they are not A players because they're more productive. They are A players because they're just better playing that games that companies create for them. You know, this one was really hard to figure out. This was really hard to figure out for myself. But at the end, you know, I felt like Andy Dufresne, the hero in the Shawshank movie, digging through the tunnel 70 years long, every day. Because it took me the same time to let go of my industrial age thinking. This was not a fairy tale with a sudden turning point. It was really painful trial and error process, with me still clinging to what's left of my old ideology. You know, when somebody in my team came to me and told me, Rolf, you know, why do we not track working hours, but we track holidays? I said, great, let's not track holidays anymore. People should take as much as they want, hoping they would not take holiday. I didn't get the point. The point was that it was stupid to look at time anyway. When we substituted this amazing salary system with a value-based feedback tool, I was still obsessed by using that feedback tool to measure people's output. I had to go through a lot of struggles to understand that was not the point. It was way more valuable for personal development. You know, I could go on like this. The point is, you know, Taylorism was not washed away by enlightenment. It was painfully moved out by a static warfare. Coming back to the engineering team, what would you do to turn it around? First thing that we had to learn is we had to create context. Why was I so fast in the beginning when I was programming all the time? Why was I faster than anybody else? Not my engineering skills. I was faster because I knew everything I needed to do my work. So we had to create lots of transparency and give everybody all the information they needed to know to do their work first. After we created context, we had to create space. We started with letting the engineers decide what project they wanted to work on. And in turn, the product owners, they had to inspire engineers to get stuff done. Leaders had to start creating a space for their team and holding that space, cutting dependencies, in which the individual contributors could do their magic. And the individual contributors, they had to become more and more generalists, because specialists are amazing in a production line, but they completely block any complex system. The worst thing, the thing that I completely underestimated, was that freedom and context is not enough. We love our psychological prison. It's our home. In the moment where we are released from it, we have to face the complexity of reality. And not everybody is ready for the red pill. So if we want our people to face reality, we have to make them ready. We have to invest into their personal development. If we want to make them resilient, we have to invest into their personal development. If we want that they find their inner motivation, we have to invest into their personal development. Unfortunately, that was my biggest mistake. It took me way too long to understand how much inner work is needed to reach a higher level of productivity. Today, I'm standing here more like an investor than an entrepreneur, and unfortunately, the same thing is happening. Investors have a tendency to overreach. Entrepreneurs have a tendency to jump on the hamster wheel and to deliver. The worst, these effects ripple down to every single company. And if we as investors are not able to hold a space for entrepreneurs in which they can evolve and their organizations can evolve, we all together will pay the bill. We will pay the bill not only in lost productivity, but also in lost well-being. And we will pay it in exploited ecosystems. If we want to unlock human potential, we need a new tenet of sustainable leadership. We have to rethink, and we have to see where our old thinking has got us, and we have to see what helps us to cope with the challenges of the future. We did a start and defined 5 principles of sustainable leadership. We need to be humble and let go of our biases. Diverse perspectives are important to solve a problem. Complexity needs broader oversight. Our current systems are based on distrust. That has to change. We need to let go of power and create a space in which people can evolve. We have to shift our systems from intrinsic to extrinsic motivation. We have to unlock the inner motivation to create and let go of fear and greed. Companies have to evolve and adapt quickly. In the future, the value of a company will be rather defined by the information that it's able to process than by anything else. And the last one, we have to create value-based organizations. We have to let go of slow rule-based systems. A mission, a purpose, is not only giving direction, it's also creating belonging. In the initial scene of Schrömgens Redemption, we were locked in for 2 hours in a claustrophobic tension, together with the inmates. Then in the last couple of minutes, the perspective changes, and it becomes wide and open. And like the hero of the movie, Andy Dufresne, I invite you to take your little hammer and dig through the walls, through the prison walls of Taylorism. Telling you, it's a painful road ahead, but what lies on the other side is breathtaking. Thank you.